Cade Cunningham. Let's get straight to it. Cade Cunningham calls LeBron the GOAT over Michael Jordan. LeBron is the best player I've ever seen with my eyes. I've seen all the Michael Jordan stuff. Dude is different. I can't argue with the fact that you think he is the GOAT, but I say LeBron. Cade, I'm a fan now. I'm officially a fan. I'm getting a jersey. Finally, we get some NBA players in the league with some sense out here. I'm sorry for on Jalen Green's behalf for all the disrespect lately, buddy. All right, it's a big W. Shout to Cade. Because we all know Michael Jordan can't mess with LeBron. That dude was playing against elementary schoolers, bro. I guarantee you put that fourth grade elementary school team out in Michael Jordan's time. Just with bigger bodies, they're going to smack them boys around. Don't let them fool you with all this old head. It was tougher back in the day. They all sucked. They were terrible. They just pushed people. They sucked. LeBron's really better than Michael Jordan at every aspect of the game of basketball. Passing, defense, offense. Literally, he'll just do everything better than Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan couldn't guard 1 through 5. I don't think he could. I never saw it. Interesting. Put me out there at Michael Jordan's time, I'm dropping 80 a game. Let's just be real. And I've been seeing a lot of people saying Kobe's better than LeBron. We've been past that, dude. Come on, man. The bald-headed goons can't mess with him. I repeated Kobe, no disrespect to Mike. But y'all can't mess with LeBron, bro. If LeBron was to play both of them in a 1v1, they're going to have a LJ chest print right in their chest from just him bodying them down. Other than that, I might catch you in the next one.
I mean, LeBron James is a phenomenal player. Again, I think he could get close to Michael Jordan. He might even tie where Michael Jordan is at, but I don't think he can get past him.
Stephen A. brought this up last week. If LeBron this year gets through, he didn't say, I'll add to it a little bit. If he gets through 2 of the following teams, Jazz, Suns, Clippers, and everyone's healthy, on his way to a finals where he meets a Nets big 3 and beats that big 3 in Brooklyn, Stephen A. said he might have to reevaluate. I'm with him. Now, I don't expect him to. That's one of the reasons I'd have to reevaluate. I don't think that anyone's going to beat the Nets big 3 if those guys are playing together. All 3 of them. They're all healthy. I don't think they can do it, but that's the point. That would be the second time in LeBron's career that he slayed the monster. Michael Jordan never had to slay the monster because he was the monster, right? He was the monster. And by the way, Chris, it's a misconception about Jordan that, what about all the other years? Every single time in his prime, Jordan was on a team with a single other all-star. They won the championship in under 7 games, right? So, what about the Pistons? He hadn't played with another all-star his whole career. Scottie Pippen made his first all-star team. Still not in his prime, but he made the all-star team. Pippen had a migraine game 7 against the defending champion Pistons, scored 2 points in 40 minutes. They lost. In other words, Jordan didn't have his all-star again. Following year, he had his all-star. Never again didn't win the finals in under 7 games. Right. His peak is the highest of all time. And I think when we say greatest ever, if you sustained your peak long enough, we're not just weighing career accomplishments. We mean who was the best when they were at their best. That's MJ. But at a certain point, if LeBron is coming close enough to MJ's peak and sustaining it 3 times as long, if LeBron, for the second time in his career, remember, I don't think he'll be able to do this. That's why I have to give it to him if he does. First, he beats a 73-win Warriors team when it looked to me like Steph's the best player in the game. Not in any other era, but in this era, the way the rules are, the way he's shooting, it's Steph. LeBron screamed on him like he was his dad at one point. Remember that? Steph had his head down, walked away, and LeBron won the finals in 7 games at Oracle. His team, partly because of him, held the Warriors, the greatest half-court offense ever. Last 4 minutes, 22 seconds at home, game 7. Fate of the universe on the line. They're about to be called the greatest team of all time to 0 points. LeBron, and by the way, iced the game on the free throw line. LeBron did, right? Mm-hmm. LeBron will have, for the second time, performed a miracle. Like when Muhammad Ali beat George Foreman 10 years after he beat Sonny Liston. That kind of miracle. And I think, given his closeness to MJ at his peak, if he were to do that, guys like you and me have to sit down and have a talk. We're going to have to reevaluate some things.
Also, guys, in just layman's terms, we go from a 1-ring difference, right? Yeah. 5 rings to 6 rings. So clearly closing the gap right there if he got it done again. Let me bring in somebody who has followed LeBron's career closer than maybe anybody, and that would be my guy, Brian Windhorst. Windy, do we got you? There you are. Good to see you, Windy. Thank you for joining the conversation. I want you to dive in on this. Where are you? Can LeBron pass MJ if he pulls off the repeat this season?
So you really have to qualify this conversation about whether you want to talk about nuance or not. Because if you don't want to talk about nuance, Jordan's 6-0 in the finals, and there's really nothing to talk about. But Jordan didn't operate in an era with super teams. LeBron has had to navigate this era with super teams. And if you look at LeBron's career, a lot of it has been like steering down that river. You know, he couldn't overcome the Boston Celtics. So he had to make a maneuver to create his own super team in Miami. When that super team went south, when Dwayne Wade had knee issues, he had to go create a super team in Cleveland. Then that super team was overwhelmed by the super team that was created by the Warriors. So he had to make another maneuver and go to the Lakers to try to create another super team. Now, in his way, is another super team with the Nets, which he will try to have to scale that wall with all the other things that he's dealing with. That is a reality that did not exist in Michael Jordan's world. It doesn't mean that Michael Jordan wouldn't have created, had scaled those walls. He probably would have. He probably would have maneuvered around. But for Chicago Bulls ownership that didn't want to pay salaries, it would have been a hell of a lot tougher than kind of the stuff that LeBron had to go through. So LeBron has had to climb that challenge that Jordan didn't. And having to do that and still reaching 10 finals despite those challenges, I think should count for something in the argument. But again, if you're only going to look at the 6-0, we really can't have a discussion. To have this squarely, in my view, you have to be willing to take into account all of the other factors that were going on in the NBA around them.
Here's the only thing, though, Brian. There was a big 3 in Boston. That is true. It was created, and he had to respond to that. But LeBron is really the creator of the super-duper team because none of the big 3 in Boston were a top 3 player in the league when they got together. LeBron was the best or second best player in the league, and Dwayne Wade was in the top 3 or 4. And they had Chris Bosh. That's who invented the super team, LeBron James. Michael Jordan was on a super team. Not his fault. I mean, it is his fault because he's Michael Jordan. That's why it was a super team. You take him off, it's just a great team, right? Or a good team. But people forget, when he got back from the layoff, he didn't win that year because he had played 17 games. He didn't have his basketball legs. But the following season, the Orlando Magic won 60 games. They had Shaq and Penny, not to mention Grant and Nick Anderson and Dennis Scott and all those guys. A 60-game team that had just, with a prime Shaq and Penny and other real good players that had just been to the finals. He swept them. The Seattle Supersonics were, if they weren't a super team, they were the next thing to it. They had multiple high-level all-stars and multiple high-level starters on the same team, which is why they won 64 games that year. They didn't go 7 games. It's a little bit overstated that his first title came against the Lakers, right? Didn't Magic win the MVP that year? The Lakers. What'd they get it in 4 or 5? I'm already forgetting. It might have been 5 games. It's not like if you look at the Utah Jazz that Jordan used to bounce, how much different are they than the
LeBron James? It doesn't stop, folks. The 4-time NBA champion is also a 4-time MVP, a 4-time NBA Finals MVP. Winning a 5th NBA championship would tie him with the likes of Magic Johnson and the late, great Kobe Bean Bryant. Max, you're up first. Would a 5th NBA title give LeBron GOAT status? I'm talking MJ, Michael Jordan, his airness GOAT status.
No. LeBron's already got the career argument. It's either him or Kareem. And I think in the pros, in the NBA, considering how LeBron's still playing at his age, it's LeBron. Peak is Jordan. And I don't see where LeBron's going to elevate his peak over Jordan's. When we talk about greatest, guys, I don't think we just mean add up all the win shares by the end of the career and who's worth more wins, right? I don't think that's what we're talking about mainly. Nor do I think it's just a guy who had 1 season. Oh, my God, he was all-world. He was as good as anyone I've ever seen, Bill Walton or something. I don't think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a guy who's prime, who concentrated the highest level of performance over a significant number of years. When they were at their best, and how how long did their best last? That's the best basketball ever played, right? So in baseball, if you said who's the greatest pitcher ever, you have a very good argument for Sandy Koufax. He only had 4 prime years, but one after another. No one ever did it like that. I think that's really what we're talking about when we say the best who ever did it in sports. And Michael Jordan's prime, guys, the first time Jordan played with another All-Star was Scottie Pippen. He took the Pistons 7 games. Pippen had a migraine in Game 7, scored 2 points in 40 minutes, so they lost. He never didn't win the finals again in under 7 games. Understand? Every time you gave, here, Jordan, here's an All-Star, he won the finals in under 7 games and put up numbers the likes we've never seen, right? And was an all-world defender. He's the greatest of all time. I don't think LeBron can catch him.
Well, Max, you just moving the goalposts for your narrative again. You can't just come up with that logic and say this is why he's the greatest of all time. Maybe LeBron James is still going. He's still at his best. Even at the age of 36, he's still at his best. And here's the problem that I have. When we talk about the game of basketball, last time I checked, the game of basketball was a team sport. This is not boxing. This is not golf. This is not tennis, where rings and championships define your legacy. Yeah, it helps your legacy, but it don't define your greatness. How about the individual accolades? Because you could be on a team that just don't have the pieces, and you could be doing more than your part, which LeBron James has been doing his entire career. And I didn't even want to get into this GOAT debate because I already know you two old haters. I know how y'all act. Oh, no, it's nothing that he could do, not a damn thing. I'm just waiting for you, Stephen A. I can't even see you today because I don't even have my monitor on. Matter of fact, I don't even want to see your face right now. But at the end of the day, I said this again. I said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again. LeBron James and Michael Jordan are sitting at the same dinner table. Some people like to drink Ciroc. Others like to drink Hennessy. I'm a Hennessy type guy.
I'm a Hennessy dude. That's fair enough. And listen, stop lying because you always love to see my face. Just stop lying. Stop lying, big boy. Stop lying. That's number one. Number two, you are absolutely right. There's nothing that's going to change my mind. To me, Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time, but him and LeBron James sitting at the same table. LeBron James is on the Mount Rushmore of basketball, one of the top 4 players in the history of basketball. There is no question about that. And listen, God forbid I don't say that LeBron is number 1. I mean, what's the greatest insult in the planet? Because some of the folks in this camp, that's how they treat it. Him number 2 instead of number 1. What blasphemy are you spewing? But I think it's something to be said about the road that you traveled to get there. I think that the things that LeBron had to endure before he ultimately got to that point psychologically, mentally, emotionally, I think there's something to be said for that. I'm thinking about the scoring championships of Michael Jordan, the NBA championships of Michael Jordan, the killer instinct that was Michael Jordan. All of those things come into consideration for me. And so when I look at LeBron, it's no disrespect whatsoever. I think he's the greatest in the game today. I think he's the greatest in the history of basketball outside of Michael Jordan. But if I had to take LeBron at his best, and I don't hold him all those championship losses against him, even though he lost 6. I don't blame him for losing to the Spurs in 2007. I don't blame him for losing for the Spurs in 2014. I don't blame him for losing to KD and Golden State. I understand what he was working against. But in the end, all I'm saying is when I take LeBron at his best, and I take Michael Jordan at his best, I would want Michael Jordan every day and twice on Sunday. Over LeBron James. And that is the only person that I would want over LeBron James in the history of basketball. I don't find that to be insulting.
Stephen A. is right, Perk.
Only Braun had to go against more Hall of Famers, but carry on, you good. Go ahead, Max.
You could use that argument. Hold on, Max. I can use the culture of the game today compared to what it was. in the 80s and stuff like that. The roughhouse tactics, the rules, how soft it's become over the years. I can bring that up. We can have that argument another time, KP. We can do that.
Well, I'm so sick. You don't want to go there.
You do
You
not
don't
want to
sick
go
of
there.
the Hall of Fame.
You do not want.
You don't
want to go.
I'm so
you don't
sick
wanna
of the
go there.
competition
because
argument.
I'm telling
it's not
you,
true.
you don't want to bring up. You don't want to bring up John Hornacek and Thunder Dan again. And LeBron facing KD and
I'm bringing them
we
up.
ain't gonna go there. You right.
Talk about
you
them.
right. We ain't gonna go there. You right. I ain't gonna bring up.
That's what
I ain't
I'm
gonna bring
talking
up Thunder Dan. You right.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about basketball in the 80s. I'm talking about basketball in the 80s. Don't act like you don't know. You know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a whole bunch of Kendrick Perkins with no softness, Cottonelle tissue
Forget about
rules
basketball
as on
in
the
the
defensive
80s.
side of the ball. Don't start that.
I can't.
Please.
You don't need to give Jordan extra credit for